Hello from San Francisco. I'm Ross Gianfortuna, Managing Editor of GovCIO Media and Research, recording from RSA Conference 2024, where experts from all over the world are discussing the present and the future of cybersecurity. Joining me now is Cynthia Kaiser, Deputy Assistant Director at FBI Cyber. So we're a year and change into the National Cybersecurity Strategy, and you participated in a panel yesterday about said strategy. How is the strategy holding up to the evolving threats over the last year?
When the cyber strategy started to come out, especially in talking about the areas for disruption, it allowed us to have more refined, more direct conversations with our counterparts across the interagency, and it's yielded really great results, especially in terms of more and, I think, better joint sequenced operations. Something that you've talked about before is everything that you do in FBI Cyber comes from a victim-centric approach. Mm-hmm. How is that manifested with the strategy, and how does the strategy sort of tie into that viewpoint or strategy? So, the FBI Cyber program does take this victim-centered approach towards intrusion investigations. It means that, number one, we're respectful of the needs, challenges, and concerns of cybercrime victims. And due to this approach, I think we're often able to collect evidence from victims, directly from victims, and provide them with information and assistance, which makes recovery less difficult. So, for example, in 2023, we worked hand in hand with Microsoft and collected hundreds of personal notifications to victims, conducted those notifications to those victims after Chinese state-sponsored cyber actors had compromised their Microsoft Exchange online mailboxes, ensuring that those victims knew about the threat and also knew how to protect themselves going forward. I think separately that same year, after identifying through FBI FISA 702 collection that Chinese state-sponsored actors had taken initial steps to gain access to a transportation hub in the United States, we immediately notified that entity and provided technical details, which enabled the entity to kick the Chinese actors off their network. And, that right there is part of our overall effort towards ensuring that we're assisting victims, but that goes then to that national cyber strategy, because as we assist victims, as we talk to people, as we learn and collect more information, we're also able to help further disrupt the actors and help U.S. networks from not becoming victims in the future by helping on that defensive standpoint of getting information out about what may have occurred in one victim so that we can stop it from occurring in another. Yeah, I would assume that certainly that there's best practices and things, lessons learned, all those various things that we're all kind of aware of, but certainly is a huge part of the strategy and a huge part of your, I'm sure, everyday life. You talked a little bit about interagency cooperation and the ways that offices work together. Cybersecurity is a team sport. It's something we hear a lot, and certainly collaboration has been a big part of this event. So how does the National Cyber Strategy outline the sharing elements specifically within the FBI, different offices, and of course, throughout the government and all different agencies that work in concert? Once again here, it really amplified a lot of that sharing relationships that we had been doing and instantiated them, especially when it comes to ransomware. So it was able to integrate and talk through and help us as we were standing up with CISA, the Joint Ransomware Task Force, that has had huge results across the ransomware ecosystem and enabling us to really counter these just persistent, pernicious actors, and allowed us to have a great structure in place for us to use a cohesive strategy across the interagency to make a big difference across the system. Roles and responsibilities within the National Cyber Strategy and, of course, at FBI. How is that working? How has it helped? Has it hurt at all in the ways, the work that you do? And how does it further the dismantling of the bad guys, as you've talked about? So, certainly doesn't hurt. I think it helps with the clarifying of the roles and responsibilities, as well as bringing in some additional agencies into, I think, deeper into a lot of the conversations that maybe a few of us were having before. And so it's been the centralizing force that I think has been impactful for our operations, but it's also been really helpful in terms of some of the additional elements within the strategy like, for example, talking through like workforce or private-public collaboration, then I also believe that the implementation plan, I think, is where there's been great strides. It's not really normal for an implementation plan to be put out publicly. And ONCD did. And what that's really helped is have us have clarity about what's going across with other agencies, and then helped other agencies know what we're doing within our own systems. And you'll see a lot of the similar statistics within the implementation plan that we use and publish through DOJ as a part of DOJ's cyber strategy. But that's okay, right? It enables us to show what's the progress we're making on joint sequenced operations, what's the progress we're making on how many threat advisories we're putting out there, what's the progress we're making on disruptions, and like being able to really expand that out. And I think like hold everybody accountable in the space for ensuring that we're applying the principles that were noted within the strategy.
What's surprised me with regards to the implementation and the public nature of it is the regularity of it, that they're doing it seemingly, the ONCD is seemingly putting out something every year. Can you talk about how that contributes to accountability and communication?
Well, I think this is the first year, right, that it came out with the regularity, and we were really happy for it. And there's a lot of conversation among all of us in advance of it to make sure that all of the steps were correctly noted, as well as some of the new steps that are in there. And so, there's a few new elements that were added into this year's. And I think that that's with the regularity of it, it's good to have the accountability. It's good to like be constantly saying, are you in progress? Have you completed it, et cetera? But it's also really nice to see like, what else now? What else are we doing? We're not just stagnant. We're thinking more about what, say, the Cyber Safety Review Board reports have noted and how we can integrate that into the larger cyber ecosystem. For example, something that's new in the recent report is a study of how to prevent juvenile cybercrime. And that's a study that's going to be undertaken by DOJ, by DHS, by FBI to really see what's more we can do here. And that's a direct result of the Cyber Safety Review Board report on lapsus. And so we're able to integrate new elements into the implementation plan because of the regularity. And I think that that's having something public, having something constantly go out is really exciting to think about, like, how else can we improve? How else can we innovate?
Yeah, one of the concerns I think a lot of the times with government is this tentpole checkbox kind of thing, this more agile notion of, I think, is fairly new and novel and certainly super valuable. I want to end about the cloak of anonymity. That's something you've talked about. The adversaries are constantly using, and it's difficult. How do you, this is something I've talked to you about at our events. How do you use emerging tech, and how do you remove that cloak? How do the good guys stay ahead of the bad guys, essentially, when it comes to these kind of cybersecurity?
Well, some of it's a mindset and decision-making process, and some of it's technical. I think, when I first started working cyber issues, it was so much more straightforward. It was, there's an incident, and we're going to deploy to that incident. We're going to collect information, analyze that information, and then we'll get to attribution. And we'll decide then, like, how much we can put out publicly. But now it feels like everything's happening all at the same time. And we're having to make some of these decisions at the same time. And it's really given rise to hard questions about what do you put out publicly, and is speed the most important thing here? Is attribution, like technical, getting down to the, very detailed versus country level, and what even technically we need to put out there to begin with. So I'm going to kind of explain all that out, right? Is, there's going to be different instances where, say, at the beginning of Russia's invasion into Ukraine, where we were receiving technical information really quickly from our Ukrainian partners. We were going through that with the entire intelligence community, like, at our backs, and within days we could get to country level attribution, and we put it out. And that's really important in a really time sensitive context. Something different is when FBI deployed along with Microsoft to Albania in the wake of the attack on their government systems. And when we were there, we were able to collect the information because the FBI deployed using its law enforcement authorities. We were collecting that at an unclassified level, working alongside Microsoft, working alongside our Albanian partners. And in that case, because it was really a new kind of Iranian actor, new information, we wanted to get some more details. And we also wanted to get partners on board. And so while I still think it was a very fast attribution, it was certainly, not, a year later, we did take the time to ensure that we were providing the information to some partners, letting them comment on it and getting to a much higher level of specificity in that so that other countries, other partners, U.S. networks knew about this new type of vector and how to hunt for it. And then I think finally within that, we also have to decide how much technically do we even need to put out? Because there's oftentimes this desire to say, we want to put out like the most, technically comprehensive product we can for network owners. But there's a lot of folks who really benefit from us putting out a quick turn paper that says you have to change your password on these products. Right? That's not a new CV. It's not a 0-day. It's something that has, yes, gone out before, but it's really important if we see adversaries using a certain type of tactic to put it out as quickly as they can, right? So, that cloak of anonymity is so interesting to me because I think there's such there's the technical attribution aspect that is getting harder, right? With edge device uses and VPNs, et cetera. But our folks are really good. And they're doing the big data analysis just to look at anomalies, to really try to put context behind something that might look benign to get to that attribution level. But the desire is to actually remove that cloak publicly, to say when, why, who, what are they doing? It's such a complex process now. And it's something that we, like one agency, can't have that conversation alone. And that's where the partnerships and I think the evolution of the entire cyber community is really, you can see that come out to bear.
Yeah, evolution seems to be a through line and certainly constant evolution more than anything.
Yes, exactly.
Cynthia, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
GovCast, along with HealthCast and Cybercast, is a production of GovCIO Media and Research. To explore our content, visit our website, govciomedia.com. Keep an eye out for new episodes every Tuesday. And if you like what you heard, leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. Have a topic you want us to discuss? Contact us at newsletter@govcio.com.